And literally, I was teaching him to read through Dr. Seuss books because he would use that against me at times. He would also say, "Oh, you think you better than me because you can read."
So you were seemingly living out the color purple.
It's very hard to watch that movie.
All right, y'all, a little bit of house cleaning. For those who've been rocking with me from day one, I appreciate the support. For those who may be new here, coming in or out of the door, for me, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get it cracking in the comments. Every bit of your engagement helps promote me into the YouTube algorithm. I thank y'all for the support. Now, let's get to it. I'm gonna tag the content creators that I snagged this from. I believe they're Black Atlanta something. I apologize. I can't remember exactly who they are, but I will tag it in the description. I took a little bit of snippet from this clip that I wanted to really focus on. Not the entire clip. It was about 2 minutes long, but just a small portion of the clip I really wanted to focus in on. And the part of the clip that I wanted to focus in on was the portion where Andrea Kelly was speaking about when she knew R. Kelly couldn't read and what she did to try to help him. Now, on the surface, I don't have any problem with what she did. She was a wife trying to help her husband become literate. He was illiterate. But I do have a problem with in which the way she did it, especially in front of his kids. And this speaks to a greater point I want to talk about tonight, which is the emasculation of men. Now, R. Kelly grew up in trauma. We all know his story now. He, was assaulted by both men and women as a child, and that probably stunted his growth. Clearly, he was in a very dysfunctional home where his educational footing wasn't nurtured. So the man was illiterate. He couldn't read, and he grew up as a man who couldn't read. So once he started entering relationships with people like Andrea Kelly or Aaliyah and others, I'm sure they came across the fact that he couldn't read. He was illiterate. And Andrea Kelly was one such woman that, learned that he was illiterate, he couldn't read. And
Go on.
the problem I have with what she did was not the fact that she was trying to help him, was the fact that she had no emotional intelligence of empathy to not understand that forcing him to read a Dr. Seuss book in front of his kids when she knew he couldn't,
Go on.
I think was very emasculating. I think it was a failed attempt on her part to not recognize his humanity, to not recognize what he was comfortable with his own deficiency. It wasn't her responsibility to egg him on to read in front of his children, whether you provided a safe space for him or not. He still had to have a level of comfort in that safe space. And what's the point of creating a safe space if the person isn't comfortable in the safe space? And that's the rub. That's where she failed. She didn't fail in the fact that she was trying to help him read. She failed in the fact that she created a so-called safe space that actually wasn't safe for him. Because I couldn't imagine not being able to read, I couldn't imagine being illiterate, and to have that vulnerability highlighted in front of my children, who I'm supposed to be this Superman figure, this figure of strength and bravery, and this symbol of protection, when I have a grievous inadequacy of not being able to read, to be illiterate. I can't take it no more. And what she did in that moment was she actually brought him into a place where he wasn't comfortable. And of course, later on in the interview, when she was talking about it, she was like, he began to resent her for it later on. And I don't think she understands why the resentment was there. The resentment wasn't there because you could read and he couldn't. The resentment was there because he felt like you used that as a tool to bash him over the head with.
Go on.
When he wasn't comfortable reading in front of his kids, you pressured him to do it. So you didn't create a safe space for him. You created an environment that made it highly uncomfortable for him and diminished him in his mind, diminished his image in his kids' eyes. Understand what I'm saying? You made him feel small in front of his kids, which speaks to a greater issue that I think a lot of women have nowadays in their relationships, making their significant other or their husband feel small. It's not the fact that you did something for him that he resented because he took it as something you could do and he couldn't. The resentment came from how you approached it. And I think that's a lot of times women don't understand that. I don't think the men are resenting you for helping. I think they're resenting you for how you're helping. You're not creating a safe space for them. You think you are, but you actually are not. What you're doing is creating a space or an environment of hostility. You're creating an environment where he's not comfortable in his deficiency. You're creating an environment where it makes him seem like he's being ridiculed for his deficiency. And I don't think she came from a place of harm when she was trying to do this, but I think it comes from a place of a lack of empathy on a lot of women's part when it comes to men and how they feel about their own insecurities. And when men cannot be vulnerable with women that they're in partnerships with, marriages or relationships, then it's no wonder that a lot of you think men lack emotional intelligence or lack emotional range, because they're not safe when they expose vulnerabilities. They're not safe when they tell you that there are things that they have insecurities about, because oftentimes they're used against them. And in this instance, I think Andrea Kelly created an environment of hostility by forcing him to do something that made him look small in front of his children. I think she created an environment of hostility that diminished his Superman status in the eyes of his kids. And no man wants to feel like that. No man wants to walk around feeling small for an insecurity that he did not want to share with his own children. And I think Andrea Kelly shared an insecurity of his, a deficiency of his to his children that he wasn't ready or willing to show himself. And I think that's where she failed as a wife. And I think that's where she failed as his partner. And I think that's where she failed as a person to create a safe space for him to thrive, to get over his own inability to read and his own illiteracy. That's all I got, man. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get it cracking in the comments. I'll catch y'all in the credits. 2 fingers. Peace. We out.
I'm making a difference.
Like Jesus.